I know I'm not alone in the frustration, hopelessness, and even outrage I feel about the inaction of world leaders on the most pressing challenges of our time. Early this year, the Open Society Foundation conducted a survey of over 36,000 people in 30 different countries on their perspectives on human rights and democracy. The results paint a stark picture. Younger generations, in particular, lack confidence in democracy's ability to address their concerns. Poverty and inequality, climate change, and corruption. It is a loop of frustration we've grown accustomed to. We cast our votes, hoping for change, only to witness little to no progress. Right now, so much of the narrative is about changing the system completely from the outside. However, when I look at how effectively that system has been used to favor just a few, I wonder, how can we play within the system and use it in favor of the many? Over my career, I've helped mobilize millions of people towards social and climate action. And this has led me to nurture an idea for quite some time around citizen power. We tend to have this binary view of democracy, politicians on one side and citizens on the other. But this ignores a hidden third party, highly funded lobby groups. We didn't elect them, but their influence is shaping our present and our future. In Europe alone, the 5 major oil and gas companies have spent over 250 million euros lobbying the European Union on climate policies since 2010. In the United States, the fossil fuel industry spent over $125 million in 2022 alone to influence the government. And according to Global Witness, more than 600 fossil fuel lobbies were granted access to COP27 in Egypt, the yearly meeting where countries define global climate agreements. This number of representatives is far bigger than of any single country. And the results speak for themselves. New oil and gas licenses, environmentally damaging projects, and a climate crisis out of control. So, where do we move from here? Do we continue to accept this deeply flawed system where just a few dictate policy outcomes? Or do we risk sliding away from democracy into more authoritarian forms of rule due to our apathy? Personally, I think we can do better than that. I believe we can use the system's imperfections in our favor to change it from within. If lobbyists are the advocates of the few, who are the advocates of the many? And for me, this is where activists come in. The everyday heroes that against all odds have proven their extraordinary ability to influence policies to benefit people and the planet. A few years ago, I decided to interview activists around the world. I was intrigued about how much time was being spent in their work and how they were sustaining themselves financially. After many conversations, one thing became very clear. The overwhelming majority was not being compensated for this work, and they were at the edge of burnout. We have a real discomfort and even guilt talking about activism and money. Yet, the lobbyists that are advocating for the interest of the few are using money to buy access, influence, and time. And so, if we're going to be effective as citizens, we need to stop thinking that activists need to work for free, struggling and risking their own well-being in the process. This thinking also limits who can get involved in activism to only those who have the means to work for free, leaving so many communities and groups unrepresented. To redefine power and envision a new way forward for democracy, we must reimagine activism, how it looks, how it operates, and how it is supported. From my conversations with them, it was clear that we needed to create a way to directly fund activists. And so, alongside two amazing people, our answer was to start Hero, the first subscription service that allows citizens around the world to directly fund a monthly stable income to verified circles of activists, groups of 3 to 10 members with a track record of nonviolent advocacy, working on behalf of citizens to secure climate policies locally, regionally, and globally on topics that go from renewable energy to indigenous rights. Now, let me tell you about some of the incredible activists we're working with. I want to introduce you to Catalina, Pamela, and Karin, 3 of 10 members of the Latin American Feminist Circle, who worked on the ratification of the Escazú Agreement, the first regional treaty of its kind to secure environmental defenders' rights and governmental transparency on climate action in the region. This is Samela, Tucuma, and Audrey, 3 of 6 members of the Brazilian Indigenous Rights Circle, who were part of the recent historical Brazilian Supreme Court ruling in favor of indigenous lands rights as part of the Marco Temporal case. But let's have a closer look at the impact a circle like this can have. And for that, I want to introduce you to Adelaide, Chloe, Lori, and Lucy from the EU Bible World for All Circle, who worked on the EU Green Deal alongside many other activists. They managed to increase the emission reduction target from 41% to 55%. Now, 14% might not seem like a lot, but it's the equivalent to not burning over 600 million barrels of oil. It could be the difference between contributing to staying below the 1.5 degrees of global warming or failing to do so by reaching 2 degrees or more, saving millions of lives from facing extreme heat and exposure to severe drought. Even Frans Timmermans, former vice president of the EU Commission, acknowledged that without these and many other activists, the EU Green Deal wouldn't exist. And these examples are being multiplied at an unprecedented pace, demonstrating the undeniable impact of activism to solve big challenges at scale. Investing in activists is powering a new purpose economy to help activism transition from a volunteer role to a paid profession, one that fosters capacity building, talent acquisition, and access to the best available tools to accelerate change. Activists bridge the gap between citizens and decision makers, elevating transparency and accountability for their actions. Research shows that funding climate movements could be up to 100 times more effective than buying carbon credits, which adds up when you look closely at the impact activists have on policy change. A crisis of democracy, it's a crisis of the very causes we hold dear. Political instability leads to higher social and climate instability. To rebuild trust in democracy, we need mechanisms that hold politicians accountable for the decisions they make on our behalf. We are the 99% facing the 1%. And I believe that our best chance to transform the system is to change it from within, to benefit people and the planet. History will remember those who dared to take a stand in solidarity to defend our planet and our collective existence, the foundations of democracy and the interests of the many. Us, the chosen heroes of our time, united in a movement that cannot be ignored. Thank you.